This is John for Global Traveler. Today I have the pleasure of talking travel with one of the world's travel influencers, Johnny Jett. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm doing well. And yourself?
I am great. I said you're one of the world's top travel influencers, and that's just not something I threw out. You're actually, according to Forbes, you're the original travel influencer.
I got lucky right after college. The internet was pretty much brand new. And I created my website while I was working at a college as a recruiter, and I was traveling a lot. I learned a lot of tips and tricks. And so I started a newsletter that helped my colleagues. They hired all my friends in the office. So I started sending emails out, and then I had one of the student workers help me create a website. And within 3 months, USA Today made it website of the week. And once that happened, it just literally took off. It was amazing. I mean, and I've been very fortunate. I really got lucky.
Well, when you started that website, did you have business in mind, or were you just kind of doing it for fun?
Oh, it was all for fun. I never dreamt that I could create a business out of it. I used to be afraid to fly, actually. I got over my fear of flying. I grew up in Connecticut, went to school in California, which is when I got over my fear of flying, and actually even afraid to leave the house at one point during high school.
Wow.
And then I went to this college that changed my life. And then I took a job there as a recruiter, and I started traveling a lot, and I just learned secrets from people. I was sick and tired of sitting in these long lines at the airport, watching these business travelers just roll right up, no line, sit in a nice big seat, get fed a nice meal, have their bags come out first. If they even checked one, usually they don't. And I just started asking questions and learning tips and tricks and just started sharing it. Because I was afraid to fly and afraid to leave the house, I really appreciated it even more. And I was just trying to share the good word.
Well, how did you overcome the fear of flying, or was it just you were kind of forced to?
It's kind of a long story, but I was supposed to go to Australia to see my sisters who were living there at the time. We never traveled internationally, but my sister met an Australian at a Club Med in the Caribbean. He invited her back. My mom sent my other sister back to go get her. She ended up meeting in Australia and stayed. And so I talked my mom into going to visit them during spring break of my senior year of high school. And this is when Crocodile Dundee came out. So I was fascinated with Australia. And anyway, we get right before we go, my mom took me to my asthma doctor. My asthma doctor is like, "Oh, you're going to Australia? That's a 27-hour flight. You might have a difficult time breathing because planes are pressurized." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?" Anyway, she put the fear of God in me. I get to the airport at JFK. And keep in mind, my mom and I were supposed to do this dream trip, and we never traveled like this ever. It was mostly car trips, but we were going to go New York, San Francisco, Hawaii for a couple of nights, Sydney for a couple of nights, Perth to see my sisters, back to Sydney, then Fiji, and
Wow.
then LA. And anyway, we get to the gate, and I have a full on anxiety attack. First time ever. And all of a sudden I was like, I can't get on the plane. And my mom's like, "You're joking, right?" I go, "I'm actually not." And when she realized I wasn't, I started crying. She started crying. My dad started crying because he thought he had the house to himself for 2 weeks. And it was a mess. But anyway, about 3 years later, my one of my good friends was in alcohol rehab in Arizona, and his brother backed out at the last minute to go to their family weekend there. And back then, you could fly under other people's names or
Right,
use their ticket. You would just
right,
they
right.
wouldn't check IDs. And so she called me up at 6:30 in the morning and said, "Listen, I know it's last minute, but this ticket's going to go to waste. And I know you don't drink. I've never been drunk in my life. And you'd be a great example if you could go and help my buddy." And I said, "You know what? I will give it a shot." And I remember my sister gave me a horoscope calendar for Christmas. And this is in January. And I said, "If this horoscope for today says something good, I'll give it a shot." Anyway, I turned the page. It says, "You're going to travel somewhere exotic today."
Wow.
And I don't know if Arizona is exotic, but it is to someone growing up in Connecticut.
Sure, absolutely. So how did it feel that after that trip then? Like did you was there immediate relief or was it
Yes,
kind of
definitely.
gradual?
It was immediate. It was like, oh my God. We flew to Dallas, changed planes, went to Tucson. I immediately had a monkey off my back. And then actually, while I was in Arizona, my great aunt died in Los Angeles. And because I was already there, my dad said, "Listen, Why don't you meet me in LA and you can come to the funeral with me? I flew by myself for the very first time. And that's when the travel bug hit me. I was like, wow, I can do this by myself. And I was 20 years old. And then next thing you know, 6 months later, I enrolled in a college in California. And I always dreamt of living in California. And I loved it. And I stayed.
Yet you're wearing a Yankees hat.
I know well because I grew up in Southern Connecticut, so 40 minutes away from Yankee Stadium.
How does that work with the Dodgers out there?
I like the Dodgers, but they're my second favorite team. And there's a lot of Yankee fans all over. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you're from Chicago. It's the same thing. There's a lot of Chicago fans all over, but
and there's a lot of Yankee
especially
fans here even. So
definitely. I mean, if you when you travel internationally, the number one hat you see is a New York Yankees
yeah,
by far. And actually, the Red Sox are starting to pick up some slack on foreigners wearing baseball caps.
I still think the Yankees are going to remain number one. They're the legacy. Oh well, the Red Sox have a legacy too, but the Yankees just are special. As much as it pains me to say that at
Definitely,
times.
but the Dodgers are definitely right there too, especially with Shoei.
But so shifting back to travel, you now have a family. How has that changed your view of travel, or how has that changed? How has that changed your view, and also how has that changed like the advice, etc., the focus of your website?
Definitely. Well, I met my wife on a press trip. She's a journalist from Canada, which is where I am now, and we got married, we had kids, and I never thought I would change my schedule. I mean, I traveled to 20 countries a year. And then once I had kids, I immediately did not want to travel. I did not want to leave these guys, my son and my daughter. I wanted to be, I want to be with them all the time. So I
Sure.
started traveling with them. So now these guys, last year I think they went to 10 countries a year with me, and I'm
Big.
very fortunate because I know all the tricks and tips on how to find cheap deals. We get hosted at some places, and these guys get to see the world. I get to see it through their eyes, and it's really enlightening, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, if I knew it was this good, I would have done it a lot longer, a long time ago, and if I had enough money and I was younger, I'd have 10 kids.
Yeah, the thing I love about your website is it covers everything. It covers from your very basics. So a novice traveler, you have travel 101, you've got the tip of the day. Then it goes all the way to family travel, luxury travel. How do you have a staff? I mean, how do you cover all these topics?
Well, my wife and I write most of the stuff, but we do have some contributors. And also, I partner with some guys who do the credit card miles and points because there's so many laws and rules, and it's always changing. So they handle all the tips for like using your miles and points. I obviously know some of it. That's how I got started, but they know it for like every different credit card and things like that. And yeah, I mean, so we do have multiple people working, but it's mostly my wife and I.
I'm going to ask you a two-part question. What is your a travel tip as a just a general traveler, and what is a travel tip for family travel?
Well, my number one travel tip overall is to be genuinely nice to people, everyone, but especially gate agents and flight attendants because they can make or break your trip. And I've always been astounded how I watch people get on the plane. They don't even smile. They even like, they're just rude. And all you got to do is actually be nice and smile. But I usually go a step further. I usually have bags of chocolates in my bag. I give them, we always give them, I have the kids now give them to the flight attendants and the captain. And they have a little log book. So I know every single one of their flights they've been on. The captain signed their books.
Oh, nice.
And so that's the number one tip. Just be genuinely nice to everybody, and you will pretty much get what you give. And then for family travel, our secret, because we've been very fortunate, and I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and every time we get on the plane, I can see the passengers around us. They go, "Oh gosh, there's kids near us." But when we get off the plane, all the seatmates go, "Your kids are the best behaved kids around." And you know why? It's one secret, basically, is we don't let them use their iPads at home, only on planes. And the moment we take out the iPads, they don't even want to talk to us. They just want to sit there and watch their shows, and it really works.
What is one thing that Johnny Jet must have, always brings on a trip?
Must have. I mean, I have so much stuff. I just wrote a story 2 days ago about what's in my carry-on bag, and I have so much stuff. I mean, I carry a travel journal where I write everything. I always have. I even have this headphone to do interviews, but obviously my laptop, my phone. But something unique I just started carrying this year is a fan, a portable fan that looks like headphones, but you put it around your neck because places are getting so hot, especially in Europe. I learned about it last year when we were in Rome. I saw a lot of tourists wearing it. I was like, man, these guys don't look so hot and sweaty like I'm feeling, and definitely looking. So I do that. I also carry gaffer tape, which is one step above duct tape because it doesn't leave a residue. So I can block out little lights in the room. I can close the
Oh,
curtains, and it won't damage anything. And that's those two things are key.
see, that's the type of stuff that I find on your website that I love. You've been everywhere, or almost everywhere, I should say. Name
I got a
some
lot of places to
places,
go.
lesser known places that you've been that you really enjoyed.
Well, we just came back last week from Nantucket, which I think is the best place in the U.S. in the summertime. I just love Nantucket. Um, Also, Catalina Island in LA. A lot of people don't know about it, but during the pandemic, we'd go there because it felt like we were in Europe, even though it doesn't compare to Europe. But I
Yes.
mean, it's in there. But where else do that people don't really know about? My grandparents are from the island of Ischia, which is not a small island. It's a large island off of Naples.
Oh,
It's
wow.
next to Capri, which everyone knows about Capri, but Capri is a third of the size and twice the price in all Americans. Ischia is the opposite. It's much cheaper. There's actually a lot of Germans, and because there's hot baths there, and it's a marvelous place.
Where is left for you to go? Where do you
Oh,
want to go?
there's a lot of places I've never been. I've never been to Egypt. I've always dreamt of seeing the pyramids. Although I feel like I'm going to be disappointed. And the same thing with the Great Wall of China. I've never been. I've been to China, but never to the Great Wall. And those are two places that are tops of my bucket list. But I really want to take my kids when they get a little bit older on a African safari. That was by far one of the most incredible experiences I've had, and I've been fortunate to do it multiple times. And doing a hot air balloon safari because I'm afraid of heights. But in Africa, when you do it, they don't go very high. They just hover over the trees so you can see the animals, and it's just like, oh my god, this is the most amazing thing ever.
So we know how you have changed travel. That's clear. You look at your website, spend 10 seconds on your website, you can see that. How has travel changed you?
Travel has definitely made me a much more open person, a better person. I mean, before I started traveling internationally, I'd watch the news. I was so afraid to fly, not only fly but travel internationally. I thought I was going to get my head cut off, and then you go to these places and you realize you're actually safer. You feel safer in most of these countries than you do at home, and people are people all around the world. I mean, for the 98% of the people are good people, maybe even 99%, and maybe just 1% are bad, and they unfortunately get all the headlines. And it's like that all over the world. Everyone wants to take care of their kids. Everyone wants to be safe. They want to be able to, provide for their family and friends, and have a good time. I mean, and try and leave something better for the next generation.
I have to ask this. You're obviously a Yankees fan, living in the West Coast. Have you done a tour of all the major league ballparks yet? Is that something
No,
that
that's on my list too. I think I've gone to 16. Um,
I've got you beat?
do you?
I've been to all but four
Have you
current
really?
ballparks.
So
So
which four haven't you been to?
I have not been to Seattle. I've not been to the Angels, the
Okay.
Rangers, or the Braves.
Okay, I've been to all those. Those are easy ones for you to get. I've never been to the White Sox. I've been to
Really?
Wrigley, yeah, and I
Well,
go to
yeah,
Chicago once in a while, and I'm actually going in a couple of weeks. I call in the Bob Surratt show on WGN radio
yeah.
every few weeks, and I love going to Chicago, except in the wintertime. And the people are just so nice in Chicago. It just amazes me how nice they are.
Well, next time you're here, if you have extra time, I would love to take you out to lunch. But
Well, I
we'll
appreciate that. I'm going to be there with my family, and this trip we're going to be pretty tight. But
sure.
I would love to meet you sometime.
It's an open offer. Whenever you come back,
Thank you.
whenever you're
Thank
around,
you.
it's lunch is on me. So
Thank you.
before I let you go, tell everybody more where they can find out more information about you. Give your website, any information, sir.
Sure. So my website's johnnyjet.com, JOHNNYJET. Only one T. I'm not related to Joan Jett. And I'm social. I'm Johnny Jet, JOHNNYJET. Unfortunately, my Facebook got hacked, so I'm
Uh,
working on a new one of those. But I'm on Instagram. I'm on X, which is formerly Twitter, but and Threads. So I don't post as much as I used to, but I'm going to start bringing it back. And I just started a TikTok account right in time for them to ban it.
oh, yeah, nice timing. Well, look, I really appreciate your time, and I encourage everyone to check out your website. I really do love it. Like I said, it's got everything from the novice traveler all the way to the experience. It's got everything from the family to the budget to the luxury travel.
Definitely.
If you're looking for something to travel, you got it. You got some information. You got some advice on it. I thoroughly enjoy your
I,
website. I really appreciate your
I
time.
appreciate it. I work hard and I do a daily travel tip. It's free. Just sign up. I also do a weekly tip if you don't want a daily one, and it's just a recap of what I wrote about during the week. But I give all my insight and my travel tips, and yeah, I work hard. I've been doing it for 20 something years.
Well, you not only work hard, you work smart, and you work successfully because you don't get the title of the original travel influencer for nothing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Johnny, thank you very much for your time. Have a good day, and go Yankees.
Take care. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Johnny.
Bye bye.